Well, I have a real treat for all of you today. I have the pleasure and the privilege to interview Dr. Kevin Rouse, who has become a dear, dear friend of mine. And I'm looking forward to traveling the world, literally, with both Kevin and his beautiful wife, Dana. And Kevin comes to us from Arkansas. He has a very successful pediatric clinic for over 22 years with some amazing partners. And Kevin has been really the last couple years just really diving, I would say deep, if that's fair to say, Kevin, into a more holistic approach for himself and his patients. And it really started with you, Kevin, correct? Looking for yourself for a more healthier lifestyle.
Yes, Sarah. Hey, great to be with you tonight. Thanks for having me. Yes, I started using products from the mental wellness company for myself. I was just looking for something to feel better in lots of different areas of my life. And I was curious about the company because I knew there was a kids line and I was anxious to learn more about that. And, I've enjoyed learning more over the last 3 years. It's been over 3 years now that I've been using products myself, as well as recommending it to patients and their families.
Oh, well, I am so excited to have you help me launch our latest, newest addition to our mental wellness platform. And it's called Kids Calm. And it's going to be such a beautiful piece of hope for families. So what I really want to dig a little deep in tonight for young families and for grandparents and for neighbors and anyone that loves kids, right, is a whole health approach for our kiddos. And really looking at, kids are struggling right now, and it's a very chaotic world. And our whole goal is to have a whole health approach to, taking a child from chaos to calm. So can you just tell us what you're seeing in your practice as some of your top drivers of pediatric appointments? What are some of the common symptoms and things that are bringing kids into you these days?
Well, Sarah, what's interesting about my practice is that, I've been in practice for so many years. A lot of people think a pediatrician just sees snotty noses and ear infections and diarrhea all the time. And, being busy like I am, my schedule stays pretty full with kids, with their well visits and just issues with chronic problems. And of course, our practice has all those other things, but that's mostly seen by our acute care providers. So especially this time of year, my schedule is packed mostly with well visits or kids are getting ready to go back to school. A lot of kids are coming back in to readdress issues with problems that were ending their most recent school year, like their ADHD not being controlled or, things like that. Parents have taken the summer to just kind of breathe from from the stress of school, and now they're getting back in and getting revved up to start back. So kids that are dealing with if they're on medications for ADHD, they're wanting to re-explore that or explore other options. If they're dealing with anxiety or stress, they're coming in for that. But what's interesting is most of the time those appointments are not made. Other than ADHD, they do make visits for that reason. But for other issues, appointments are oftentimes not made for that. They don't make an appointment saying, I'm coming in because my kid has anxiety or my kid's not behaving properly. That's oftentimes comes up in a discussion at their well visit. So, yeah.
So would you say like top symptoms that you're, hearing from these well visits are meltdowns, focus issues, behavioral issues? Tell us what you're hearing from these parents and from the children.
So I hear a lot from families, kids that are having behavior problems, tantrums, maybe above and beyond what would be expected as normal, being just anxious, stressed, worried, especially with school starting back, especially with kids who are making a transition from like junior high to senior high or elementary to intermediate or to middle school, changing buildings, things like that. Kids get stressed out about that. A lot of kids will present to see me with like recurrent headaches, tummy aches. They're not sleeping well, even sometimes digestive problems. They won't eat. They're picky eating, which results in sometimes chronic constipation, and the list goes on.
Now, the last 3 years, you brought in our Kids Line to your clinic. And can you just share a couple of stories? I mean, how has that transformed your approach with your patients, and what results are you seeing?
Yeah, Sarah. So what's really cool is when I started using the products and I started learning about our kids pack and was able to have conversation with you as well as Dr. Talbot, the scientist behind our products, and learn about the science. I mean, these were products that I had never honestly heard of because I didn't get trained in that in my traditional medical training. And so as I did my research and had conversations with folks, I started thinking, this sounds pretty cool. I've had parents ask me over the years if there's something natural we could use. Could my kid take this supplement or that supplement? And I would just have to say, well, I don't know. But now I finally had something that I could, suggest and recommend. And so I had kids who were medicated for things like ADHD. That's the biggie, most common. And some would be doing okay on medications, but they might be having side effects that are undesirable, such as not eating, losing weight, maybe not sleeping. So parents were interested in maybe another option. I had kids who we had been through a whole list of medications that just weren't working. So I introduced this to a few families, and actually the first kiddo I used was a former premature child. He was a twin and he was really young, but he really needed something for ADHD. And I did what we do. I put him on methylphenidate, a stimulant, and he had significant side effects. When he came for follow-up, I had been introduced to these products in the interim, and I just told mom, I said, here's something new I'm learning about. I would love to give it a try. And she was like, I'm in, let's try it. And so he started on our kids pack, and within just a few short weeks, we were able to reduce the dose of his medication. He did a time off of medication and has just done very well. I've also had great success with kids that are dealing with significant anxiety, anything from social anxiety to separation anxiety. And our kids' mood product has been very instrumental in helping with that. Parents use that little pixie stick, and I've had kids call it their happy stick or their calm down stick, and it's helped with that. I've had children that are on the spectrum of autism, and our products have helped with anxiety from that, with chronic constipation with that, just less meltdowns that you get with that. So I could go on and on. And what's pretty cool is I've got stories from kids from age 2 or 3 all the way up to kids that are getting ready to go off to college that have used a variety of our products and just helped with things like test anxiety, ACT prep, things like that. It's just pretty cool.
Wow, I think I can speak for every parent listening. They would just love to pick your brain. And my God, you look like Santa Claus. I just have to say, you do. And you're like the pediatric Santa Claus, bringing hope to these families because, it's natural, it's organic, it doesn't have side effects. And hey, if it doesn't work, there's then other options to try. But why not try something that doesn't have side effects? And to be seeing the results that you're seeing at all these different age spectrums, because a 4-year-old is a lot different than a 16, 17, 18-year-old. So that's pretty cool, what you're seeing. Now in the Pixie Stick, the 3 main ingredients are so powerful: the rosemary, holy basil, and saffron. And what's interesting is in that little Pixie Stick, it tastes pretty darn good. So to get those ingredients in there where it's not a high sugar count or artificial flavors or sweeteners, pretty powerful. And I love what the kids are calling it. What did they say? The happy stick? Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah. And I have one little girl who calls it her calm down stick.
Her
calm down stick. But happy stick, calm down stick, and mood stick, just funny things like that. And it's pretty cool. And, Sarah, you mentioned saffron, holy basil, rosemary. There's a couple of things. I think it's oregano, clove. Anyway, 5 years ago, I would have just thought that was just stuff you cooked with. I had no idea that it had, because, I just had never learned about this. And what's cool is these are all things that our earth provides.
Yeah.
Our creator has provided these things from our earth, and we take, and with modern science, that's the cool thing about our company. With modern science, we can now take the extracts from these plants and make them in a form that just does even better than if you were, just growing in the backyard. Yeah.
Saffron can help normalize serotonin and dopamine. Those are the feel-good, neurotransmitters. And holy basil supports stress regulation and provides a calm to the body and mind. And rosemary supports a mental focus. And you put those 3 together, it's like a powerhouse of nutrients that children and adults just aren't getting every day. So I have just seen, to me, I think every child in America and every adult in America could be on it because they would just have better clarity. Some may not feel like they have a diagnosis of ADD, ADHD, but I'll tell you, there's a lot of days I'm lost my car keys and it sure does help me find the car keys. So, when you're looking at these kids that are having some struggles, would you say that sleep is a big common denominator, that they're having sleep issues, or maybe don't even realize that they're having sleep issues? Like, tell us a little bit about this sleep story.
Oh gosh, there is not a day goes by that I don't talk about sleep with the family. I mean, there's not a more. I mean, seriously, pulling numbers out. I mean, I would say 50% of my appointments, probably more than that, sleep comes up as a discussion. Sleep is so important. I have kids that have trouble falling asleep. Kids have trouble staying asleep. They're tired, they're crabby, and that directly impacts so many things. I mean, so yes, sleep is a major issue, and you know, acute acute problems with not getting enough sleep. I mean, kids are going to have poor school performance, uh, behavior problems. They may become labeled by the teacher as the troublemaker. Uh, Adolescents, teens who are not getting enough sleep have been shown to have an increased incidence of mental health issues such as anxiety or depression. They also tend to make poorer choices, the high risk behaviors, an increased risk of injuries and accidents. And then also there's some long-term effects, the risk of not adequate or good quality sleep, increase, we know it's associated with increased risk of obesity, hypertension. Even in the adult years, it has been studied and potentially linked to issues with certain cancers and Alzheimer's risk too. So sleep is so very important. It's where your body and your brain just basically detox. It's that resetting through the night.
Absolutely. I looked at a couple statistics that 73% of high schoolers are not getting enough sleep and 53% of middle schoolers. And that, no, 58% of middle schoolers. I even have my glasses on and I'm like, I am blown away by those numbers. And, let's talk about too, when a child's not sleeping in the household, neither are the parents, because that's just a ripple effect, right? That's affecting the whole family. And it's amazing, how that affects everybody. So I have been doing some of my own research, and the number one sleep aid choice for families to try is melatonin. That's like the go-to. And can you tell us a little bit about what's starting to be discovered about melatonin, which is shocking?
Well, I'll be the first to say I've actually been one of those providers that have, recommended in the past melatonin for my patients, because it's just, you when you run out of options, okay, yes, try it. And I've seen it work for some folks, but really, for the most part, I've seen more negative than positive. But I was so shocked to realize that the number of pediatric melatonin overdoses has increased by 530%. Isn't that crazy?
That
And
is mind blowing.
as people start having more of these substances or products in their house, you've got those kiddos, typically the younger ones, 5 and under, they're going to be more likely to get into things and ingest them. But melatonin, you know kids are tired the next day. It may help them go to sleep. I don't see it being very good for sleep maintenance, sleep quality. This is an artificial hormone basically you're using. It's a synthetic substance you're giving. I see nightmares in kids, night terrors. That's pretty common. So I try not to recommend melatonin on a regular basis. And there's even links and studies being done that suggest that the giving extra melatonin can affect the pathways of hormone production that can delay puberty and affect children's puberty. So a lot of more studies need to be done on that, but a lot of research being done on melatonin. We really don't have any long-term studies on the use of melatonin and its implications on down the road. And when you're giving something like that synthetic, you're kind of teaching your brain or your body not to make its own. And so you really just kind of get dependent on that synthetic substance and then all the negative effects that come with it.
Absolutely. science and knowledge is evolving, right? We are constantly learning. And at times we do our best with what we had. I mean, I was giving this to my husband because he has a rare disease and he hadn't slept for almost 5 years in normal night's sleep, but it didn't work. We called it the melatonin hangover.
Mhm.
And he just felt like crap the next day.
Mhm.
And but we tried every solution. It was the adult sleep product that actually brought me here to Amare before it was even open, because I was just blown away. But researchers at the CDC are reporting a 420% increase in visits now for pediatric melatonin ingestions. I mean, it's very interesting what's starting to happen. And so I think we have to ask ourselves a question: should we give our child, a synthetically made hormone that we don't know the long-term studies, or maybe try something natural and try it first and see what happens? And so that's where I am so excited, because we've taken our adult sleep and we're putting it into a kid's sleep. And they're making it into kid-friendly gummy. And so I'm so excited to release and announce that we will have a product called Kids Calm.
Yes.
And what's funny is, like, the Kids Calm stick, what's going to be really cool about this product, it'll be the first on the market because it's going to do two things. It's going to be melatonin free. So it's not only going to help help a child sleep better, but it's also going to help them stay calm. And like you said, when a child has a good night's sleep, they are able to be more productive. But the ingredients are pretty cool. Again, it's like what you said, what our creator just put here on earth, and we get to use them. So Mazenol is one of the main ingredients with 5-HTP. And what I love about the flavors, because you got to get it in kids, and in a gummies can be, all these gummies that are out there, I've heard nightmares, Kevin, of children getting cavities like crazy because they're so full of sugar. And the gelatin that they use isn't necessarily a clean source, or you don't know if it's GMO free, but ours is vegan. So our gelatin is going to be from a citrus pectin, and it's sugar-free, GMO, preservative and additive free, and the flavoring is blueberry, lemon, and chamomile. But it really has a really yummy taste of more the blueberry. I even think it tastes kind of like grape, just with that combination. It tastes delicious. My beef with it, I'm going to have a serious problem. I'm not a chocolate girl. I'm a gummy girl. I love gummies. I'm so worried about just popping them in. So I actually asked Dr. Sean, not that I'm recommending this, but I'm like, what happens if somebody eats the whole jar like me? Which is interesting, because you brought up, could be potentially all these melatonin overdoses or kiddos getting into them, right? And so what would happen, and we don't even have to have a safety cap lock on ours, because he's like, they might get a tummy ache, but that's about it, or diarrhea, but they're not, I mean, it's natural. It's not going to be an overdose. So I'm not saying to eat the whole jar. I'm just saying that it's a safer form, which is pretty darn cool. But the primary ingredients, this Mazenol and 5-HTP, ramps up the serotonin and the dopamine, which in turn converts your body's ability to make its own melatonin. And I love that they also add secondary ingredients to this, which is magnesium, zinc, vitamin B6, methylated folate, which will also help with the serotonin to melatonin conversion. So it's very well thought out. It's very robust. And we've had several families, several children on this in our pilot program, and it's been mind-blowing. We've had special needs kiddos. We've just had kids that have had trouble sleeping, to teenagers, and the results are just the same as our adult product. People are getting, great results. So Kevin, what can you tell us from your opinion of having used the adult sleep, knowing that the same ingredients will be in this one? How do you feel about that? Tell us about, are you excited a little or a lot?
Okay. No, I'm beyond excited. So I've been waiting for a product like this for pretty much the whole time I've been with this company. So I've actually told parents, I mean, I'll see a 2 or 3 year old checkup and they're like, they don't sleep. And of course, I'll do my usual talk to them about certain sleep hygiene things. And then I'll say, other than that, that's all I got. And I will say, if I could solve your sleep problems, I can retire early, because, I would love to. So this is so exciting to have something that I can actually say to a family here, I want you to try this because I really think you're going to see great results. I've actually used the adult sleep product in some of my patients. and they've had amazing results with their kids. Teenagers can take it and swallow the capsule fine, but some of these younger kiddos, the families are actually opening the capsule and putting it in a smoothie or something, and the taste, is probably not the greatest. But now I have a gummy that they can use, and then so I'm so excited about that. But I will tell you on a side note, Sarah, when I thought I was sleeping great, honestly, I didn't think I had any trouble with sleep. But when I joined this company, I got a big pack full of products, and one of the things in the pack was Sleep Plus, and I decided, well, I've got it, I might as well take it. But I thought I was sleeping really good, but I was still waking up tired the following morning. So I started taking Sleep Plus, and then I realized, oh my gosh, I wake up sometimes before my alarm goes off, and I'm rested.
Mm.
So it's pretty cool. So to have something that I can transfer, can you imagine a third grade third grader who has never slept well taking this, and then all of a sudden the mom is not having to go in there, or the dad is not having to go in there and literally drag them out of the bed because they just got to sleep 3 hours before time to get up for school?
It.
Can you
It's
imagine how changing that will be for that household?
Kevin, it's interesting that you said that, you gave families suggestions, but you were like, that's all I had. That's exactly how it was for my husband. And I remember going, there's got to be something. When we tried every oil, every over the counter, under the counter, behind the counter, like we tried everything. And it was like, oh my gosh, I can't, like Benadryl will knock you out, but it's not good sleep. It's almost like
Oh, and you're tired the next
yeah,
day, all
it's a
day.
hangover. It's a hangover.
Absolutely. I've experienced that myself.
Yes.
And honestly, as a physician, I have prescribed medication to children, oftentimes against my better judgment. Medicines that are used for blood pressure, medications that are used, ancient meds for depression, that we don't even use for depression anymore, but we give them to our kids to help them sleep. I've done that, and so I'm so excited that I'm gradually getting out of that practice of giving these pharmaceuticals that you know. So
I
yeah,
know.
I'm beyond excited.
And what's going to be great is you're also going to see adults that don't like to swallow or have a gag reflex, or teenagers. And so they'll have the gummy choice. And then you'll see kids where a 7-year-old might be like, I'd rather just swallow it. So we have options now, which I think are great. Now for the gummy, ages there, it's recommended for ages 2 to 17. And can you just share a little bit about like the dosaging and kind of the weight issue with kids? Because it's really more of a weight issue than an age issue. Could you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so with most of our products, we kind of look at that 100-pound mark as being a kind of a guideline. Once you're above 100 pounds, we feel like physiologically and medically you can start moving to more adult type products. But so for those kiddos 2 and up that are under 100 pounds, they could do 1 or 2 gummies, depending. The younger ones maybe start with 1, could go up to 2 if you need to. If they're closer to the 100-pound mark, then obviously start with 2. Those kiddos above 100 pounds could move to they could still try 2, but you have the freedom to go up to 3 or 4 in the teens. Even if adults wanted to take the gummy as opposed to swallow a capsule, they could go ahead and do that adult dose, which is basically four gummies.
Yeah. And what families should notice is really improvements in deep sleep, which is their body recovering. Can you explain a little bit about that? Like what they'll start to see in their child or even themselves as results?
Yeah, so there are different phases of sleep, and each phase of sleep has its own role. And so you have your deep sleep, you have your REM sleep. Your deep sleep is when your body basically recovers. It's when you rest, okay? Your muscles and everything, they get that rest that they need. Then you have your REM sleep when your brain recovers, okay? That's where, if you're not sleeping well, not getting enough REM sleep, you have cognition issues, you have focus issues, you have the anxiety and all those kind of things that can increase. So when you're having improvement in your deep sleep and your REM sleep, your body and your brain will both be rested.
Right. And I love what Dr. Sean says is that sleep is when it cleans the brain. I just think that that's like such a cool like concept. And when you think about it, I mean, that's when you get like the ultimate rest. When I never thought I had a sleep issue. I didn't have a problem falling asleep, and I didn't even have a problem staying asleep, but I had a problem getting up in the morning. And for the last 5 years, almost like clockwork, I actually wake up before my alarm clock. I am so productive. which is mind blowing, like what I've been able to accomplish in my life in the last 5 years. And honestly, I contribute it to this product because I get good, my brain is cleaned every night. It's able to rest and restore itself. Which is so huge. So talk to us about, the families that are freaking out right now going, oh my gosh, I have my kid on melatonin. Don't freak out. First of all, don't freak out. But if a child has been on melatonin for a longer term usage, what would you recommend? Can they go cold turkey off of it into the gummy, or what's your recommendation?
Well, if the child's been using melatonin long term, so they've been on it consistently for several weeks, taking it nightly, then no, I would not stop at cold turkey. I would do a kind of a gradual weaning process. Now, if your child only takes melatonin every once in a while, that you'd be okay. But if you're on it consistently, you need to wean it. And so I would recommend that if you start taking the gummies, continue to take your melatonin at the full dose you've been doing for the first week, and add the gummy in. And then your second week, I would reduce your melatonin by half. If you're taking 2 milligrams, go down to 1 milligram. Do that for a week and take your gummy nightly, the dose you're doing there. And then after that, you should be able to stop your melatonin and just continue the gummies.
I love it. And how long do you recommend parents to give this to their child? Like, some people see results, right away, but what would be your recommendation?
So one thing about all of our products, Sarah, is we're working on things from a holistic, natural standpoint. And, we as a society have gotten so used to trying to find a quick fix, that magic pill, that magic bullet's going to work overnight. So yes, you could get some good results the first night, but I recommend consistent use. Consistency is key. Give it at least 2, 3, 4 weeks. And honestly, I really recommend a good month or two of consistent use, because you're kind of resetting the whole rhythm, and then of course, you've got to have that consistent routine. It's just like with things for weight loss. I mean, yeah, you can take a pill to help you lose weight, but if you're not incorporating other lifestyle changes, it's not going to work by itself. And so you need to be consistent with your routine, and a routine has to be done. You can't change a routine overnight. So for it to become a routine, it has to be done for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. So a consistent bedtime, shutting off the devices, shutting off screen time at least an hour or two before bedtime, a cooler room, darkened room. It's when it's in the dark, the brain releases your natural melatonin. That pineal gland deep inside your brain releases that hormone. And so that darkened room is important. So, you just have to be consistent with all of the above, not just the gummy.
I love that you talked about the routine, because it really is a whole health approach. This isn't like a take one thing and it fixes everything. Wow, 1 to 2 hours before bedtime. I mean, I'm just thinking of most middle schoolers and teenagers. It's a real problem. They're playing video games, they're on their phones, their iPads, like all this screen time, like it's not healthy, for our children or for us.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm guilty too, but and even, I'm really bad about in the middle of the night, if I happen to wake up, go to the bathroom or whatever, it's very tempting for me to just look real quick at my phone, check my emails real fast, or do I have any new likes or comments on any of my Facebook posts, to look at that. It's tempting for me to do that. And so for kids, I'm not usually they're not usually my biggest fans when I see them, because I tell the parents, you really got to shut off the devices. And a lot of times when kids, especially when they're old enough that they may not be going and waking their parents up when they're not sleeping, you've got that high schooler, teenager, if their phone is in their room, they're going to get on their phone and start playing a game or start Snapchatting a buddy or whatever. And that's not good. And then I get the excuse, well, my phone is my alarm clock.
Uh-huh.
And I understand. I mean, it's mine too, but they still make traditional alarm clocks, and they're not that
just gonna say
they're not hard to use.
And they've gotten cheap.
Yeah.
Are you listening to this? Basically, can I just come right out and put the elephant in the room? Get the devices out of their bedrooms, period.
Absolutely.
even when our kids were in high school, they're all grown now, but we did that. We encouraged that. And especially when we knew it was affecting them, we're like, put it on the counter, it's out, you're out. And listen, they need your guidance. I mean, these are things that we did not have as children. And we are all pioneers to this, AI chaotic, blue screen world. And
Mhm.
it's affecting us, and we have to start saying no to it or having a routine of consistency. And I love that you said that. I'm a champion for that because we want healthy families. Kevin, thank you so much for all this advice. This has been just I'm so excited to get this out to as many families as I can. Any last comments you want to share with families that are just praying for happier, healthier, stronger immune kids that sleep better?
Oh gosh. Uh, I mean, I would just watch for cues. I mean, I think you asked me that each time we talk, if there was any advice I could give. I just tell my advice is be involved in your kiddo's life, whether they're 4 years old, 14, 19, well, 19, then they'll be out of the house, but you know what I'm saying? Be involved in your kiddo's life. Watch for cues that something might be going. Watch for cues that they're not sleeping well. I mean, if they're really crabby, that's maybe because they're not sleeping and then you just don't realize it. Just have conversations with them. Just be involved with your kiddos.
Absolutely. So, just as a plan of action for everyone, if a child or an adult is really struggling with a focus issue, is memory retention, concentration, comprehension, just kind of hyperactivity, would you say that the kid's mood would be a great option for them to try for those type of things? And obviously, the kids sleep if kids are struggling with sleep. But also if families are wanting that insurance policy for a healthy immune system, our multivitamin Vita GBX and our fundamental pack is it's pretty outstanding as a whole comprehensive whole health program. Would you agree to that? Would you say it's pretty accurate?
Absolutely. And I'm a fan of our kids' products, all of them. I'm really becoming a bigger fan as time goes by of our kids' fundamentals product. Those three strain specific probiotics and prebiotics combined with an amount of L-theanine plus the polyphenol blend, those things working on the gut, the microbiome, and the axis in between. Then you add in L-theanine for that calming energy. Okay, I know that sounds crazy, calming energy. That is a great combination, and I'm seeing kids just flourish using that product. So, and if you add kid calm to this, look out. You're going to have a kid that's ready to go out and change the world.
We're going to end on that note because that's awesome. Kevin, Dr. Kevin Rouse, thank you. Thank you so much from behalf of so many people that will listen to us for giving families hope. And there's always hope. And how cool is it that it's just right out our backyards what the good Lord gave us? Oh, it's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Right. Thank you, Kevin. We appreciate you. And for more information, stay tuned.
Thanks, Sarah.